How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're just doing something new tonight. I've got my beautiful girlfriend behind the mic producing. I'm glad that y'all don't have smell-o-vision because we've been cleaning around here and it's funky. But I felt like recording tonight. It just feels like I'm in a good space mentally and physically and spiritually. So I wanted to do this, and I feel like while the momentum's going, I feel like this is the purpose for right now. So that's why we're going to record again. 2 in 1 week. Let's maybe try 3. I don't know. It gets fun. Once you get rolling and get going, it gets interesting and conversation gets to flowing and it starts to feel natural because it is natural and I love it. It's so fucking invigorating. So, yeah, I have my beautiful girlfriend, Bree, behind the mic.
Hello.
Hey, there's a few things I want to talk about. It's been quite an emotional week, and I feel like getting some things out there in the open has made me feel vulnerable and exposed, but empowered. I feel strong. I already felt extremely strong in who I am as a person because of what I've proven to myself thus far. But now, getting my story out there into the open and just letting people have a little bit of insight of who I am now, it's empowering because I want people to realize that I'm a lot like they are, probably, in a sense. I'm just more willing to say the things that most aren't willing to say, especially about where we fall short and where I fall short and where I want to be better and where I want my friends to be better and where I think as a society we can start to go into a direction to become better. During this week, having my emotions and really getting down to the basics of why I am who I am and putting my real triggering trauma out there, and also being able to say that I'm sorry to people that I hurt also in the process after the fact because of the trauma shows that we can become better and we can evolve and we can strive to be better humans each and every single day. And it's that differing besides between the fact of knowing that our conscience, which is driven off of a higher platform, is different than what our self and what our mind entails. And I've been really thinking about the more that I've gotten out there as far as exposing who I've become from that very, very horrific trauma. I've grown spiritually. And I just want that to be evident in who I am. And I think it's important to document who I am now so people can see that we can become better and we can grow. If anybody would like to reach out to me and like have like a dialogue or anything to where we talk about things that have happened to where I've might have hurt somebody, I would love to have that because I think that holding ourselves accountable for what we've done and how we've made other people feel and letting them have a place to tell us what they've experienced and what we've made them feel is important. And that's how we also grow, because that's also being vulnerable, is hearing someone else. Because my only hope is that the person that hurt me hears me and ultimately, like I said in the previous podcast, experiences the love of God like I have. And so that's where I'm really at with it. If you would People would like to talk about things that have happened or how I've made them feel in the past that might have made them feel less than or anything, and they want to talk about that, then this is where we can talk about that too, because I want them to know that, like, I truly am sorry. So yeah, I think this week's been a huge week. I think that it's only going to get a lot better. I think that putting myself out there in a world like today exposes myself. But I mean, guys, I come prepared. I've done the work in the last 5 years to get to this point. I've come to terms with the Creator on the things that I've done, the boundaries that I've created now, the relationships that I have now, who I let in and out of my life now, who I've cut out of my life, why I've cut out of my life. There's really no justification except for the only fact that I truly go off of what God tells me. And it seems like every time that I go off of the next best decision that God tells me to do, a blessing happens. And so I just I've gained momentum, and I relate everything in life to work, and work to how we do things, because it is mind, body, and spirit. I just really strive to try to do my best in all aspects of who I am, and that means just trying to be open and honest and vulnerable, and just share who I am with y'all guys, because it's taken a lot to get to this point, and I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this next step. I've been thinking a lot about, like, consciousness and stuff. When we talk about consciousness, and I'm sorry, I'm gassy. So if you hear me rip one boy, that just means, shoot, I made some baked fish tonight and it was delicious, but like I haven't had nothing that healthy in a long time, and dang.
Are you gonna edit that out?
I don't know.
You don't
That
know,
felt
or
great.
no?
I don't know. That felt great.
I'm glad. I felt that
Woo.
for you.
Ooh wee. Dang. Phew. But anyway, I want to talk about consciousness, because I believe that consciousness is an energy, and I believe that that energy is something that we've had for a very long time, and I believe that it's probably interdimensional, and I also believe that it's probably harnessed by the scientific limitations of what this earth can only perceive and what God has created this earth to be. However, our conscience is more. And when I say conscience, you can relate that to your soul. You can relate that to an energy that dwells within you. You can relate that to even saying that that's what Christ is when you ask Jesus to come into your life. That can be that. But it's an energy, and it dwells within you, and it's neither created nor destroyed. So once you think about that, this it becomes undeniable just in that sentence that we have something that goes on between here and here, and it's totally different than what our brains even can perceive that to be. And I believe that our conscience comes into our body at a very young age, and this is just my opinion based off of my experience. And challengeable, yes, but I believe that my conscience came into my body at a very young age. And for my own personal experience, I've been thinking about, after I've shared my story this week, about my conscience, because we have to have a clear conscience in order to really do anything worthwhile in this life. And it's not about my conscience towards you, it's about the conscience that I have towards the Creator, and that relationship that I have with the Creator. That's really the only connection with my conscience that matters. And so after I've done this podcast this week, I've been thinking about my conscience. And in doing so, I've started to try to think about when was the first time that I realized that I had a conscience. And before I share, we're going to go to an ad. I'm just kidding. We're not going to go to no ad. But before we come to share my experience with what I think was my first real experience with my conscience or my soul harnessing my body, believe that we are just souls having a human experience. I believe that we are souls before we were bodies, so I believe that we are souls just with a body. We're not bodies with a soul. I think that we are souls. We can embody who we are based off of our spirituality. And I can throw up a picture of my mugshot right now and show you what I look like when I was not spiritually connected. And we can do a direct reflection of what I look like now. And I even tell my son this because he talks about how fat I used to be. And I don't mean to body shame myself, but not when I mean fat, but I was very out of shape and I was very swollen up because of my alcoholism. I was not spiritually connected. And he's like, "Why do you look so much different now, Dad?" And my answer to him is because I've started to embody my spiritual form in this physical reality. And I truly have. So, before I share my first experience with what I believe was my own conscience, babe, what do you think was your first experience with your conscience? And when do you think, based off of your own opinion, your conscience comes into your body?
My conscience goes. I've been thinking about it a lot too, but probably more recently than you have, like today. And I don't know when my conscience entered my body, but
Were you ever saved? Or, like, did you ever ask something greater than you to come into your life?
yes,
How old were you?
like actually physically doing that, I was probably about 12.
Okay. Did you feel anything?
No,
Okay.
that didn't feel genuine, really.
Okay. And did you and why do you say that? Because did you do that with your conscience?
I think it was ignorance, really.
Okay. So at this point in time in your life right now, not then, but right
Mm-hmm.
now, can you differentiate a thought that comes from your mind and a thought that comes from your conscience?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
Um, integrity to me.
Okay. So
Is it, I don't know.
I I didn't. Okay, let me
Is
say this.
a simple way of putting it, I guess, because
Well,
like,
okay, well, let me let's see if I can see if this will turn into integrity or if this is integrity. We'll just
mhm,
see what it is. I'll use a real life example. Some of my friends struggle with things. It doesn't matter what they struggle with, but some of my friends struggle with stuff. I struggle with things. Anybody with a conscience, when they lay down at night, knows what they struggle with.
mhm,
And so, your conscience, if you're in your quiet space, if you're listening, your conscience is going to give you a map
mhm,
of what needs to be done. And sometimes that map is like, oh, that can't be right. Like, for instance, I got to leave my wife in order to, like, have more, or I've got to not take on this other job in order to have a little bit more money. The map doesn't make sense at times. And it doesn't matter what you're struggling with. There's a map that we have with when we're alone, and it's a little voice that hears us, because our conscience, think about a thought that you have in your mind, right? Something's listening to that thought. Something else is hearing that thought. Before I even speak this sentence, something is hearing that thought before it's even being enunciated. You see how fast that's happening? That can only be energy.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So, yes, it can be integrity, because once that map is laid out, you don't know what that map is,
Mm-hmm.
but I do. And it takes my integrity
Mm-hmm.
to put that into action. And now it might be anything. For instance, some people might have said at that point in time, especially the people that were around me, like when I left my wife, hey, like, what? I don't know. That's not up to me, but like, it's kind of out of left field. Like, you're fucking crazy, bro. That's what, that initial reaction, even like my boy Andy, a lot of times he's questioned me in the past few years, only because he's scared of the things that I've gone off of based off of my conscience, but he can't deny
Right.
the life that I live now. And
Mm-hmm.
that is gratifying to me, because that man's opinion is important.
Mm-hmm.
So now it is integrity. Back to my question.
Yeah.
So kind of like we kind of understand a little bit about consciousness.
Yeah, and I'm having thoughts because even at 12 and like accepting Jesus in my heart or whatever, but that's what I did. Like it didn't feel genuine, and I think that was partially just the church that I was at, but
Well,
also
I think you were trying to make other people happy, and you were
yeah, I was going
also
to say
going
there's
off of other people's motives and intentions of what they wanted in your life
yeah,
at that point, and that wasn't a higher power.
there was a lot of generational things passed down that
So,
made it a little bit difficult for like, I don't know, as far as a conscience goes.
mhm. Do you think everyone has a conscience?
Sorry, it's my bedtime. um
I think everyone might have a soul, but I don't know if
yeah.
everyone is connected. And so, like, people might have a conscience, but it might not be present right now, because people can live in self,
Mhm. Exactly.
because our souls have free will, remember?
Mhm.
And we see that picture of the fork in the road, and we don't really know what that means. We just see the
Right.
fork in the road, but that fork in the road could mean that we could follow this map that our conscience or God has laid out for us when we're in our own alone time, whether that be our prayer room, meditating at night, listening to frequencies. It doesn't matter. Whatever
Mhm.
you're doing to get quiet and you hear this map, that's your conscience. That's that other voice that hears your thought.
Mhm.
And it tells you something too, because you know that it speaks. It speaks back. At least mine does. I'm very in
Mhm.
tune with who I
Well,
am.
I mean, I'm a little scared to speak, but
Don't be scared to speak. This is an open platform, baby. We can't be scared to speak. We got to talk about what's going on in our lives and why God is important and why
Mhm.
God is relevant, because the only way that people that are addicts and that people that are struggling are going to find hope is they're going to find it through being able to relate God in today's life, when everything seems to be really hard.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be hard, but it doesn't have to be hard. So now, conscience.
Mhm.
When do you think your conscience came into your body? Do you think so? When I say this, I want you to think about the very first time
Mm-hmm.
that your mind became aware and it became one, and it was that first thought that that voice heard. It's achievable. It's achievable and it's impactful.
I still don't know. I have a lot of
Yeah,
blocks
it's okay.
and suppressed.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to happen right now. And I was just wondering if you knew, but I'll
I
share.
don't, but I feel like I'm closer to finding out, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, but I don't feel like I'm
I think
fully there.
but I said it's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I
So,
feel that.
all right, I want to share what I think was my first real, what I'll say, awakening in this reality.
Okay.
I was a toddler. I was at the foot of the bed, and I remember pulling myself up to the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pulling myself along, and I was shimmying across the foot of the bed like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this I don't remember at that time, but now previously I remember, because I remember what happened at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means we can go further, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That's fucking dope. But anyway, so I'm shimmying across and I fall. Boom. I remember hitting, because I was going this way. I was going from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going, boom. And I hit on my side. Boom. And the moment that I hit on my side, boom. It was like falling out of a tree and losing your breath. It was like, boom. It was like literally taking the first breath. And I remember getting myself up and looking around and being present. And this is a lesson because I was present.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't thinking about the past. I was thinking about landing
Mm-hmm.
and being present and being now. It's important. That was my first experience with my conscience. You said something important earlier, and I don't know what the question was.
You asked, when do you think your conscience enters your body? And I said, I think that it's when something traumatic happens, whatever that be.
Yeah, and I didn't even tell you that story until now,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a traumatic event because I fell.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that this is a simulation,
Yep.
so I believe that I was meant to fall and I was meant to hit, and my body was catching my conscience, boom, on my fall, and I
Mm-hmm.
was coming in for landing. I wasn't there yet,
Yeah.
but my mind, see, like, my body was there. I already chose my body. I already chose this experience and this reality for some reason, which I'm learning why now, for love. But at that point in time, I hadn't got here yet. And then, boom, I landed. And I'm like, kind of like a landed from another planet type thing, like because we're energy and we
Mm-hmm.
can fly and we're eternal and our souls are forever, man.
Mm-hmm.
Which means our conscience is forever. And conscience is more than just see, touch, hear, feel, and smell. It's so much more than that. It encompasses love. But right now, when you add ego, you don't think that the ego dwells in another reality like this ego dwells here.
Mm-hmm.
But when you add ego to this reality, it adds a duality. And this is all just off of experience. This is all things that I'm coming to fruition. And you can testify to the fact that, like, I do be putting in the work, trying to do the next best thing. I'm really striving for these answers. I'm really striving for more. Like,
Yes.
it's good to like have that. It's persistence and it's consistency and
Yes.
it's developing a pattern, and it's at first like this podcast. I wanted to have other people on here and have conversations with people about everything, and I still do. But I think what's important is that we get to the foundation of like love,
Mhm.
and why that's important and why we need to be conscientious of that. You said that.
That
Conscientious
will.
action. Think as if, act as if, be as if. And that's being present. Excuse me. Sorry guys, I'm sniffly. Whew. Allergies hit me.
We've been dusting a lot.
Yeah, sweeping a lot. The dog hair has been a lot. Feels like a safe space, and this is a safe space. What I mean by safe space is this is a safe space for my conscience to
Mm-hmm.
dwell. Like, my body is safe here, so my conscience is safe. It's like a blanket. Like, my conscience feels literally like a blanket. It's
Yeah.
blanketed. Feels warm and blanketed.
Secure.
Yes. It feels like that it's had the experience of really feeling fucked up and being okay now. And it takes a long time in this reality to come to that point of being okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can't rush it. And we can't rush it on anybody else either. We can't shun people away from that light either.
Absolutely.
And I've been thinking about that too, because like some of my brothers have been like really bringing down other some of my other brothers, and I wanted to like be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, bro? But like, instead of shunning them, like, I need to love them. I need to love them like I would want to be loved, and like I want to be held accountable. I want to hold people accountable. Like, if I were doing that and I was making a decision based off of the ego or the self that was happening in my reality in this universe, I want to hold people accountable the way that I want to be held accountable. And it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's conscientious.
I'm the same way, and I think sometimes people mistake it for arrogance when they
Or
don't
self
know me.
righteousness.
Yes, when they
And
don't know
it's
me.
not.
Yep.
I don't see self righteousness in you. I
Thank you.
see annoyance in you sometimes when I do things, or like when you see red flags in me, or when I do something that might trigger something from your past that you
Mm-hmm.
might not be familiar with. And like, I need you to be able to feel that, so I know that, hey, she's she she's feeling a certain type of way, and like we need to talk about these things because we're doing things differently.
Yeah. As long as like I always feel that's another thing. Like with it, this being a safe space, I feel comfortable enough to come to you and let you know how I'm feeling or where I'm coming from, and then you do the same, and then we come together on that.
Your conscience just has to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
and when we feel safe, we can start to heal ourselves. And when I say we start to heal ourselves, if we ask something greater than us to already dwell within us, then the healing ourselves comes from whatever we ask to dwell within us.
Yeah.
It's not a self thing. So don't get twisted on the words here. Get caught up on the fact that it's already inside of you. That's the important part. It's already dwelling within your conscience. You've asked for this experience. I think about that a lot this week. Why would I have not asked for the experience that I've had with how people have reached out to me and told me that they love me and my story helps them? Why wouldn't I not have that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know anybody else that's out here that's been through what I've been through and has had this experience. but it's affecting a few people, and it's helping a few people, and it's resonating with a few people, and it's resonating with people that want change and abundance and are starting to be goal oriented and are making conscientious decisions or living spiritual lives just like I am. And that means the collective is happening. That's the fourth dimension. And it talks about that in the AA book. And I don't even think I've gotten into this with you, but it's so fucking important because they talk about this in like the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think that they knew that they were tapping into yet. But these people are gone, and they had to come back here possibly to redo this experience. So why would it? Consciousness is never created nor destroyed. So like, just because I have a cross consciousness doesn't I'm not against the fact that I have a Buddha consciousness either. Because I've asked Finding Joe, we should watch that. Oh fuck, we ask these things to incarnate in us, the Buddha, Jesus Christ. And yes, that is very, very controversial. But in my philosophy and in my life, I've asked these things to incarnate in my consciousness and resonate within me and identify with whoever is out there, that they can see whatever they believe within me. And whether that be some Hindu god, it doesn't matter. I want them to believe that it's love,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. That we can come to a middle ground and that we can understand that as a human, we're having this experience together, and consciously we can connect.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fourth dimension. It's going to be a collective. It's
When you're
evolving.
well, when you talk about like your conscience entering your body and stuff, like I also think of like spirituality and how that can be confusing and mixed
Okay, so
together.
tell me what is confusing about it. I would like to hear your thoughts on where you're.
I think some people may have a more surface level of thinking, and I don't know where their conscience lies in that or whatever, like what they would believe. I don't.
The surface level would be like hearing this and like disagreeing, and then wondering why you disagree.
Asking someone else when their conscience entered their body and they're like, oh, when I was. I'm going to
Well, I
say.
think that's a better question to ask instead of doing the opposite of which what I did when I worked at Target was what, or what do you
Mm-hmm.
believe? What do you think happens to
Your,
your soul when you die?
mm-hmm.
And Clint used to get. He's like, dude, you're so crazy, bro. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, it's so real,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets you thinking.
Yeah,
What
you have me thinking.
what happens to it? Because this is called life for a reason. We're supposed to live it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. Our bodies are going to die, and our souls are going to shed the body, and then we're going to have to be like, damn, dude, we're life. We're supposed to life there.
Mm-hmm.
That if it's that simple, if you want to break we're supposed to life here. We're supposed to live the fuck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do that as one, and as and bring people together, and do that and live it to the fullest and experience this life to the fullest, and replace those feelings of abandonment and addiction with adventure. We are supposed to seek adventure. We are supposed to seek what our body has came here to do, and that is to push our limits in this body and let our souls live here, because our souls are going to live beyond here.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mine's all over the place.
It's okay. I'm
No,
sorry.
I have a lot of questions. That's why I'm like, can't even form one.
You were asking about.
I guess, and I think you were responding in like to this without me asking it, but like Like if you ask someone when their conscience entered their body, I guess could you think they could be wrong?
I'm not here to tell anybody that they're wrong, though.
No, not tell them and not vocalize that. Do you think like they just like in your own
Well,
self,
if
like
I
you're thinking, yes,
intuitively feel
yes,
like that what they say based off of body language, based off of what their body tells me,
mm-hmm.
I'm speaking to their conscience at that point, because I'm consciously connected.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know.
With like
So again,
memory
let's try
issues
it
and
again.
things like that too. Like,
But
has
that's
that
because
affected?
trauma can suppress these memories.
I know that.
So
That's why
like we
I'm
have to like understand we have to differentiate
mm-hmm.
our mind from our conscience.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
What's your very first memory?
I don't know. I've been thinking about that too.
It's not out of the abnormal to struggle with that first memory, because like even like if I think about my first memory, I also think about pushing around a cop car that had lights on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes slow down, pull over, slow down, pull over. That wasn't my first conscientious thing, though.
Right. Like that's
That's a memory when I was a toddler, also, but I was vividly walking at that point. So we have to learn how to differentiate these things. And that just becomes, I think, that I think a lot. So,
mm-hmm.
like, I'm always, like, almost hyper fixating in a sense
Mm-hmm.
on, like, these types of thinking, this type of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's kind of almost cheating when I come in and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But, like, I always also like I want to ask because I want to see where you're at that point too, because like I've been at this point too. Like my memory suppressed so much bullshit. And thank
Yeah.
you.
Like
It
yeah.
with good doing.
Yeah. Like I needed that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, brain.
Yeah.
But
It's a
also,
survival thing. We're here to survive, baby.
I just don't have very many. Like
Don't
they're
be mad
just.
at your body. Our body and our conscience are here together as one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like whenever we leave here, the goal is to be together with the creator. It's all relative. And then when you look at quantum physics and relativity and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see like, dude, it's simple. It's very simple. We start to see our dogs and like, you're like, dang, it's starting to have behaviors of what it possibly could have been before this life because it just didn't get it here.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't get love. And maybe these animals are here until they experience love.
Which means we need to figure out what all of our dogs were. We
No, it
don't.
doesn't mean that we have to figure it out. It's just fun
I
because
know. I mean,
it's a game too.
that's
Because
what I meant.
our
Like
God
for
has a sense of
fun.
humor. Our God
Yeah.
has a sense of humor. That's why partly like I feel so profound in my truth, but I'm also sitting here saying it with a missing front tooth. Because God does have a sense of humor. You have to get past the missing front tooth and understand, like, we can also have a conversation and laugh. And
And then
have a
I just
serious
looked at your
conversation and
gap.
laugh. Huh?
I just looked at your gap.
It's, I mean, like, I'm self
I
conscious about
love
that
you.
too, but, like,
I
if we're talking biblically too, like, God put a thorn in our side to remain humble.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think about, like, if I had all my teeth, like, sometimes people wouldn't be able to tell me nothing. I could probably go out there and get any job with my mouth, like just talking to people. Like, I have to have my identity before God's going to let me have things that I can use for ego
Mm-hmm.
in this reality at this point because He's broken me down.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
It's a physical breakdown, but we're seeing a rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing somebody actually be reborn in real time. And we can't be naive or deny that. We because I see you being reborn. I see you thriving. I see you making breakthroughs. I see your brothers making breakthroughs. And that's important to me because that tells me to keep going. I see my other friends who I'm also hard on making breakthroughs too. That's important to tell them that you're proud of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have those words of encouragement, to speak words of truth,
Yeah.
of words of light. And I say those things, and sometimes I'm such a bullshitter that people think that I'm being sarcastic. No, I really am speaking live because sometimes I'm down on myself and I have to say it just to get that frequency and that vibration out there from my conscience to catch it again and then
you know
soak it
what?
in.
Mine takes it with me. I mean, yeah, mine takes yours with me, like later in the day.
Yeah.
For real. I
The
feel it, like,
You're beautiful, you're
yeah.
courageous, you're a great mother.
Thank
You're
you.
strong, you're powerful, you're intuitive, you're tenacious. You're a queen.
I knew all of these things before meeting you, but just like hearing them from someone other than myself, because that's what I've been working on a lot, was just how I talk to myself.
How you used to speak life into yourself before you met me.
Yeah,
But that was a boundary that you didn't even know that you were creating for yourself.
right.
That if you were going to have somebody else that was going to be in your corner and be on your team, that they were going to have to speak life into you too.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't have realized that until you would have gone back out there and possibly been with somebody that would have been bad for you too.
Right.
And then came across somebody that maybe it would have been me, but what would have been important because I love you is that you found somebody that spoke life into you and that helped you get Lainey,
Mm-hmm.
that put you in a position to be the best mother that you could be. That's important. It doesn't matter if it's me or somebody else. What's important is that it happens.
Just me.
Or if it's just you.
Because she is my family.
Because it was a boundary that you created for yourself before you put yourself. And I don't even think you were out there putting yourself out there because you didn't sure seem like it. I don't know. Doing your thing. But I wasn't looking.
I wasn't at all.
My next response to be something of value.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it might take me a little bit longer. And I'm like,
Same.
and I'm not being I don't want my body language to come off as being upset. And maybe I am having an upset moment, but again, I'm processing some emotions. So, what my next thing is going to be important is telling you something and coming back with something encouraging or coming back with a hug or just coming back with do you need some space? It doesn't matter, but it has to come from somewhere that's not a negative space. Right. Point blank period. We have to understand and identify those negative feelings and negative emotions and those fits of anger, and then process it in real time, which might take a minute sometimes.
I am a problem solver, and I have to discuss things to get through them and feel okay about it and move forward and together and work as a team. But if that doesn't happen, I can't.
I love being a team, and I'm very solution oriented. And so much so that I've gotten to a point to where maybe solution might be step 3, and I'm coming at you and I'm like, we need to find a solution.
Yeah.
And I'm because maybe my solution at that point, I'm not recognizing my insecurity first. Maybe I'm not recognizing that I might be dealing with some shit that's going on that I need to process in my own life. And I'm going to solution, solution, solution. And yes, solution is important, but maybe the solution in the first place is finding your own solution to come back to the table and fix things to when you're ready.
Yeah.
They need to figure out what's going on with themselves, and in doing so, they need to quit hurting other people.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't validating someone else's feelings, because I wasn't validating my own feelings about life, because I was not strong enough spiritually or mentally to take on the validation of those feelings. They were too big.
Yeah.
And too scary.
Right.
But they're not big and scary. They're just thoughts and feelings here
Mhm.
in this reality. And normally, those thoughts and feelings never come to fruition. It's normally something else that catches us off guard. If we're spiritually connected, then we have a plan for just about anything. And in doing so, that means that I'm also connected to you. And that means that in this reality, I can validate your feelings.
I need you to. Did you send me what we were going to talk about
Mm-mm.
today? You just said conscientious. Conscience.
When
I'm
did
over
I
here
say that?
thinking conscientious. Conscience. You said be ready to talk about something in conscience.
Oh, before you went to work, I was like,
Yes.
I asked you to think about when you possibly could have had your first conscience, your first moment with your mind and consciousness.
Yeah. I still got to think on that. I think I'm going to have to break it down. Like, we're going to have to break it down behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with possibly UFOs. I
You're
all
going to say something
interconnected.
else?
Hmm? Interdimensional and interconnected and conscience driven. But we'll see. This is
Mm-hmm.
a good talk, and we'll
Yeah, it
leave it at
was.
this. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Just trying to do the best that I can to just spread awareness and just show that we can grow together and love one another through no matter what, especially the most darkest parts of us. So, with that, I hope y'all have a great evening. Good night. Love y'all.